Circle of Life movement can affect grassroots change in so many areas. As you can see, the work that it's already starting to do inside prisons and the community. Well, where can people go to get the actual Circle of Life farm experience? Many people do not know exactly how much farmland that Washington State has. To be honest, I don't even know the answer to that. But what I do know is that according to the Washington State Department of Agriculture, there is over 35,000 farms, which are 94% family owned and generating less than $250,000 a year. The average age of farmers in Washington is 55, with nearly 2,000 existing farms in each major county. The question of who is going to preserve this farmland for the next generation lingers. Washington produces over 300 different varieties of produce, and 99% of agriculture products sold in local farmer markets are Washington grown. Now that we have an idea where locally grown, healthy, and culturally acceptable foods can come from, depending on what climate zone you are in, the next question is, what sustainable practices would you use to keep from depleting the soil? The rule of thumb is wherever there is food production, there must be habitat restoration process implemented as well. Now that we know there is growing power in Washington, I would like to introduce my baby, as my colleagues love to refer to as the Circle of Life Farm. The Circle of Life Farm is structured as what is called an agri-hood, which is a housing development that is integrated with edible landscapes, which in this case would be a 20-acre farm. The structures would outline the diameter for design and passive solar heating purposes to help sustain temperatures for crops growing within the circle. Starting with the tiny home living units, there will be 20 monolithic low 20 tiny homes for the reentry housing program. Next to these homes will be a multi-bay commercial greenhouse subdivided for aquaponic prairie plant conservation and a nursery for fruits and vegetable starts. On the far side of the greenhouse will be a small-scale commercial vermicomposting plant where worms will be used to break down food waste and castings will be used to make organic fertilizer. Next to the vermicomposting plant will be the food processing and distribution plant where produce will be thoroughly cleaned and packaged for delivery to CSA members, farmers markets, community kitchens, and emergency food programs in the community. There will also be a multi-purpose center and cafeteria where the culinary school will be located right next to the tiny homes to complete the circle. There will be 4 large growing plots staged in the center of the farm for rotation crops and specialty crops. The Circle of Life Farm can be used as an incubator farm to support the local food system. It can also serve as a learning center for future farmers and land conservationists. By partnering with local organizations, businesses, institutions, many more opportunities can grow from this foundation. This is only phase 1. This vision I'm sharing with you all costs less than $2 million to start up. Then it regenerates itself after that. These are the kind of housing, education, training, and economic development opportunities that we need to be creating more of to make our communities more sustainable. Securing land, housing, and commercial space within city limits comes with a lot of red tape. This can become very overwhelming for one individual, one family, or even one organization. Yet the community still looks to us for the solution. But many are afraid to come together to address the problems that are adversely impacting the community at large. It's going to take collective work and responsibility. First, we must overcome the things that divide us in order for us to recognize that gentrification, poverty, homelessness, food scarcity, mental illness, and diet-related diseases affects my family the same way it affects yours. We must work together to secure land and become better stewards of the growing spaces that we do have access to if we want to begin to find sustainable alternatives that make us less dependent on the corporate systems that are inflicting these types of living conditions on our communities. I'm not going to preach today. I hope that you all see that there is a problem, but also that we have enough available resources and assets to come up with the solution. This is step one. As I always say, how are we going to survive if we can't feed ourselves? Let's get our communities out of the state that they're in so we can begin to build them back up in the structure that we want them for the next generation. There is healing, transformation, and growing power in the Circle of Life movement. The BPC will be planting seeds in the first Circle of Life garden in prisons in March. Take the first step with us in the community by helping launch the gardens at God's House of Second Chances, Nurturing Roots Farms, Hilltop Gardens. And I almost forgot to mention, we'll be launching the very first official Circle of Life Community Garden right here at Tacoma Community College. I would like to give a special thanks to my mother, who proudly is smiling down on us from heaven. She told me before she passed away that I had no clue how big the Circle of Life really is. I'm starting to see what she sees. Thanks to my father, who is my advisor. Thanks to my wife, Alita, for sharing his vision and sacrificing it all for the movement. Thanks to Jenny, Chandrika, Chanel, Patrice, Naima, Dean, Gretchen, Kelly, Vanna, Natalie, and all of the ones y'all brought to the circle. Thanks to the brothers who stood in solidarity from day one. I would like to give an honorary thanks to Dr. Kente Perry and the Village of Hope for seeing the potential, empowering the movement, and connecting its work with the community. It's ones like you who give us hope. We still got work to do. Peace and power to you all.